Once again, Alex had deployed her emergency handbag knickers. If a bus mowed her down, at least her mother would be proud of her daughter's clean underwear. She was late. She was later than late. The likelihood of her being killed by rush hour traffic was high, considering the way she dashed across the busy roads. Even though her clean undergarments provided some comfort, she felt as rough as a puking cat. What had she been drinking? Oh God, Southern Comfort. Her guts roiled at the memory. Standing on the curb, she leant forward, depositing her breakfast into a fast food container. Cracking shot, Alex. You might still salvage this day after all. It was a relief this happened before she got to the office. "It's your own fault, idiot," she said aloud, provoking a glare from a fellow pedestrian. "No, not you," she called after the retreating suit. "Me!" Clearing her throat into the gutter a final time, she ruefully eyed the bilious mess, resembling, to her disgust, something like a fur ball. She couldn't go into the meeting with breath like a 12-year-old tabby. This demanded coffee and air freshener. A hole-in-the-wall coffee kiosk beckoned from across the road, and she ducked through the traffic, tempting death or worse. Inside, a young man sat staring into the middle distance, apparently not noticing when Alex stepped forward. She waved her hand in front of his face, and he blinked, slowly, with an almost reptilian languor. Spotting her, he smiled, nodded, and pointed to the chalkboard menu. The choices were few, but Alex didn't care. She needed strong, dark coffee, the sort that didn't mess about. Coffee with both attitude and flavour. Turning toward her, she found the guy staring into space again. Was he stoned? She leaned into the serving hatch, breathing in dark brown fragrances that promised so much. She smiled. Cluttered around the counter was a haphazard collection of sundries for sale, extending on past the shiny espresso machine. Not all boxes appeared labelled in English, cheap knockoffs probably. Then, in the gloom, she spotted a box of toothbrushes. Perfect! Today was going to be a success, she thought. The universe is aligning itself for me. "Hi," she sang out to the reluctant barista. "A double espresso and a toothbrush, please." "Double espresso and 2 cups," he replied. "No, a double espresso and a toothbrush," repeated Alex in a louder voice. She pointed over his shoulder to what she wanted. He peered into the back, spotted the box, and his eyes lit up with understanding. He laughed. "Yes, of course," and retrieved the box, standing it on the counter for Alex to browse. As he busied himself with the clatter of cups and hissing coffee apparatus, Alex selected a pink toothbrush. "Excuse me," she asked, "do you sell toothpaste?" He turned and shrugged. "Not sure. I'll have a check in a minute after I finish your coffee." "Thanks." Soon Alex's coffee appeared through the hatch, wisps of steam escaping from the plastic lid. The young man disappeared into the dark, and Alex heard boxes bumping around. After a few seconds, he reappeared with a striped white and turquoise tube. "I think this is it," he said. "It's in Chinese or something, so I don't know what flavour it is." "All good, thanks," said Alex, pleased to find what she needed so quickly. She paid, gulped down her coffee, and left the empty cup behind. Now her motor was up and running, all she needed was to sneak into the toilets, quickly freshen up, and she would be ready to go. Today was an important day. It was her first company pitch meeting, and a strong impression would go a long way. Hopefully Chloe, her manager, would not be in the session. This was Alex's day to shine, and she did not want to be subjected to the Harridans' constant criticism. Chloe's team consisted of overblown hee-haw types. Their joint projects grew legs, although some had a noticeable limp. There were no tangible outcomes that she had ever seen. Alex felt that not only did the Emperor have no clothes, but he had an arrow pointing towards his genitalia. Ahead of her, office blocks reared into the sky, the one she was headed for plainly visible. Checking her watch, Alex silently cursed before picking up speed. She arrived on the 10th floor with little fuss and ducked into the ladies' room. At the sink, she quickly tamed her ratty hair with a vicious brushing before retrieving the toothbrush and brightly coloured tube from the bottom of her bag. Fearing she was about to smear hemorrhoid ointment inside her mouth, she tried deciphering the foreign text. Only 2 words of English jumped out at her. Preppermine toothpaste. Oh well, she thought, at least it doesn't say bum cream. Eager to be moving, she scrubbed last night's debauchery away with a flourish of fluoride. It tasted minty and sharp as Alex brushed her tongue, trying not to gag as she did. Checking her reflection, she bared her teeth in the mirror, marvelling at the almost Hollywood perfection. Great teeth, rotten hangover. It was a shame she couldn't do anything for her pounding head. It felt as though it would pop her eyes out of her skull. Pushing her headache away, she tried to ignore the growing pressure. She hoped she could struggle through the next hour without having a stroke. "Don't be so dramatic," she told the young woman in the mirror. In the corridor, Alex spotted Brian from purchasing slinking towards her. He was a sleazeball of the lowest order, a middle-aged cephalopod with an enlarged prostate, and she always avoided him at work functions. She shuddered, relieved when he sidestepped into his office to answer a persistent phone. "Dirty pervert!" she yelled down the hall. Shocked by her own outburst, she clamped a hand over her mouth. This was going to be one hell of a hangover to ride out, apparently, and she needed to toughen up. Perhaps the coffee was a bad idea. Too late now. It was 8:30 already, and the meeting was about to start. Noticing the boardroom door ajar, Alex slipped in, relieved no one spotted her, as she took a seat towards the middle of the oval table. Not too presumptuous, but not too restrained either. Score 1 for me, she thought. Felicity, Alex's assistant, placed a coffee and a biscuit before her with a smile and a wink. "I saw you sneaking in," she said. "Drink it while it's hot." "Thanks, Flick," said Alex. "You're too talented for this place. This lot don't appreciate you." Felicity blushed, smiled weakly, and glanced away. The rest of the room stared at Alex, their eyebrows raised in mild consternation. "That was a bit loud," whispered Felicity. "Thanks all the same, though." She squeezed Alex's arm as she walked away. "Time to begin, I think," boomed the distinctive voice of Nick Westall, head of commercial accounts. The room quietened as people sat, shuffled their papers, and pulled pens from their pockets. With a sense of approaching disaster, Alex realised she was sitting directly opposite Chloe. The older woman's mouth was crinkled by years of smoking, and frown lines furrowed her sallow skin, turning her face into some kind of relief map. Like Nosferatu's less attractive sister, mused Alex, causing an escaped giggle to be quickly turned into a cough. "Get a grip on yourself," she thought. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Paul Kramer from BioFutures," continued Nick, nodding to a casually dressed man on his left. "Paul is here to discover what Clearview can offer, both as a media creative and client-focused service. I know you will give him your full attention." He motioned to Paul, who smiled and took the last remaining seat. "Hi," he said. "I hear Clearview is the best of the best, so I'm here for some inspiration and help with planning. I'm sure most of you have read our company vision document, but I'll give you a quick recap anyway." A gentle chuckle went round the table at that. "They'll need it," Alex muttered under her breath, before quickly tapping her pen against her teeth, the picture of innocence. Not everyone appeared to have heard her, thankfully. Only Chloe held her gaze from across the table, her cryogenic stare causing Alex to swallow any further comments. Paul carried on as promised. "BioFutures is an ethically driven development company dedicated to creating positive impacts in emerging economies. We are working towards a healthier, inclusive future for upcoming generations, making a big difference through small projects." Murmurs of approval echoed around the table. A man leant forward, clearing his throat. "Paul," he said. "I'm James, creative team lead. First, let me say how thrilled we are to have you on board." Alex snorted, loudly. With a filthy look in her direction, James continued. "Our best minds have been on your wish list for weeks, dedicating themselves to ensuring you, as our client, receive a quality package." Alex snorted again. "Come on," she told herself. Pretending to cough, she said, "Allergies, sorry." Now it was Chloe's turn to speak. "Firstly, Paul, may I say how pleased we are to be part of such a forward-thinking initiative. Clearview has always prided itself on its commitment to a sustainable future." "Ha! Bollocks!" shouted Alex, hurriedly pushing her fist into her mouth to stop the tirade threatening to escape. The whole boardroom stared at her, expressions filled with murderous hatred. Chloe ignored Alex, soldiering on. "We thought we should start with a balloon launch from the White Cliffs of Dover. 10,000 helium balloons displaying your logo released over the sea to signify your global reach." Paul's eyes widened. "Oh, well, that sounds, he stuttered. James took over the pitch. "After the balloons, we thought we might distribute a few thousand crates of high-energy drinks to some of the migrant camps. Again, all with your logo, showing how you encourage people to keep striving. After which we will send a dozen inflatable goalposts to a war zone of your choice, with footballs of course, all sporting your brand, because BioFutures is all about kicking goals. Paul, appearing pale in the 10th floor window's light, blinked once. Then he blinked again. "You're all bloody idiots," yelled Alex, on her feet now. "You are the most tone-deaf bunch of prats I've ever met." She was conscious she may well be washing her job down the river, the debris of her career and reputation floating like logs in the torrent, but didn't care. What the hell kind of half-assed, misbegotten campaign is this? "Sit down, Alex," snapped Chloe. "I apologise, Paul. This is her first pitch meeting." "No, I won't sit down, you dried-up hag. Don't think I haven't seen you with your crafty morning vodka shot and choc chip muffin. You're defunct, love. Your kind of strategies went out with shiny disco pants. As a matter of fact, I hear you were a bit of a dance floor whore in your day, Chloe. Also, we all know it was you who gave Brian the clap. Guess what? He then gave it to Siriana in HR. Everything tumbled out of her now. 3 years of nodding and pretending everything was fine. The dam had burst and she was unable to stop the flood of words rushing from her. This man needs an agency who understands what he does. His plans won't come to fruition this year or even next. He is investing in the future. You lot want to pollute the English Channel, give migrants heart problems and play football with traumatised kids. You want to stamp his company name all over that mess. Who do you think you are? Inflatable goalposts? Seriously? Alex stopped, needing to breathe for a beat before continuing. Don't you dare reach for the phone, Nick, or I'll let everyone know your nasty little secrets. She looked round the table. Ask him why his wife left him. Go on, ask him. Came home and found him in a compromising position wearing a spaniel costume, didn't she? Grubby little man. I'm surprised he manages to make it to work without chasing the postman and peeing on every lamppost in the way in. People squirmed uncomfortably as she locked gazes with each in turn. Condemnations uttered with every word. Embezzler, alcoholic, narcissist, philanderer, plagiarist, not you, Felicity, you're lovely, abuser, drunk driver. Do I need to go on? The room was now a tableau, people frozen to the spot. Only Felicity moved, pushing her chair backwards while staring at her colleagues, horrified. I'm sorry, Paul, that you came to this pathetic colony of maggots for help. I'm sorry they couldn't see you are working to better everyone's tomorrow. I'm especially sorry that no one, not one single person, researched you properly. I did, and I'm deeply moved by your vision. I hope you eventually do find some quality representation. You deserve better than these idiots. Alex Cochrane, you're fired, screamed Nick. Collect your belongings and get out. Woof, barked Alex. Fuck off, Snoopy. She was flagging now, the flood subsiding as she ran out of words. Nick's jaw fell open. He looked at Paul, who had stood in horror. Alex Cochrane, will you come work for BioFutures now that you're freelance? Asked Paul. I promise all I'm into is drunken karaoke. Why me? Inquired a now exhausted Alex. Because I've been doing this long enough to recognise passion and authenticity. You possess both. And I want you on my team. Actually, I think I may be slightly over-caffeinated. I don't normally go off like that. Oh, I'm a caffeine head too, Alex. We'll get on well. What do you say? Alex nodded. Let's do it. I'm always up for an adventure. Gathering her stuff together from where it was strewn across the floor during her outburst, she came across the stripy white tube. Examining it closely, she realised it was clearly labelled Peppermint Toothpaste, and she laughed aloud. How extraordinary. On the way out the room with her new boss, she gave Chloe the finger, just as Felicity slipped past. Her assistant had a box in one hand as she headed for her desk, her intentions plain. Well done, Flick, thought Alex. Emergency Knickers still in situ, the former employee of Clearview reflected that it had turned out to be a very good day indeed.